Well, the big breaking story we're tracking this morning, a gas leakage from a chemical factory in Badlapur was reported on Thursday night, creating panic in the area. No casualties have been reported so far, but several people in the 3-kilometer radius are complaining of breathing issues and nausea. Saurabh Gupta joins us with the very latest. Saurabh, what more can you tell us?
Well, authorities were told and informed of the gas leak, and they say that they reached the area around 11:24, and the situation was, the leakage was stopped, I beg your pardon, at around 11:24, and the situation is now under control. Now, officials say they've inspected the factory and the gas is not toxic. They just asked citizens to panic and not to panic and remain at home for a few hours. And also they say that, the fire brigade officials were called after people in the area reported trouble in breathing, and this is of course in Badlapur East, and this is an area that has a few factories, and it took place at this factory, the gas leak, and obviously no casualties, no injuries have been reported, and authorities say the gas is not toxic, so people just need to stay at home for a while and things should be fine. And in fact, by now things should be fine.
All right. Well, Saurabh, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. It is a worrying development that we're tracking. We'll keep a close watch on all those developments. So far, no casualties have been reported. Authorities saying that the gas leak was not dangerous. Now, India will be among the handful of countries to receive COVID-19 vaccines from the United States under its plan to supply the first 25 million doses as a part of its government's global framework. Vice President Kamala Harris told Prime Minister Modi during a call last evening. The first 7 million doses will be split between 16 countries: India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and others. The United States aims to share 80 million vaccines globally by the end of June. Now, a share of 75%. The United States will share at least 3/4 of its donated doses, prioritizing Latin America and the Caribbean, South and Southeast Asia and Africa in coordination with the African Union. Now, this comes at a time when the US President Joe Biden said that they plan to give at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine to 70% of its population by the 4th of July. India is going to be getting a share of that 25 million doses from the US that it plans to give out to countries which are seeing a surge in cases. Prime Minister Modi tweeted saying he spoke with Kamala Harris yesterday. He said that he deeply appreciated the assurances of vaccine supply to India as a part of the United States strategy for global vaccine sharing. He said that he also thanked the United States government for standing in solidarity with businesses as well as the Indian diaspora. He went on to say that the two discussed the ongoing efforts to further strengthen the India-US vaccine cooperation and the potential of the partnership to contribute to the post-COVID global health and economic recovery. Well, speaking of vaccines, Wockhardt has made a deal for an undisclosed vaccine. The details of this vaccine is not known. It's been left undisclosed for now. It continues to be a mystery. The chairman of Wockhardt spoke exclusively to NDTV, and he said that an official announcement is likely in the next 2 weeks.
I believe you can really ramp up your production in order to manufacture vaccines here in India. Are you in talks with any of the vaccine makers at this stage to step up the numbers we need in India?
We are discussing with one company to manufacture 500 million doses of vaccine capacity per year. And we have already signed the technology transfer agreement. But we are in the process of signing the final agreement. And I think we will announce it as soon as it is done in the next few weeks.
Which company are you talking with, sir?
Because of confidentiality, I cannot mention the name of the company.
Is it one of the companies looking to enter India?
It is the company which is either approved, their products are approved, or in the process of getting it.
All right. Now, after Pfizer and Moderna, the Covishield maker, Serum Institute of India, has asked for indemnity from liability, according to sources. All vaccine makers, whether Indian or foreign, should be granted the same protection, said the Adar Poonawalla-led company. And this is what the company's stand is with the government of India. Now, this impacts the Serum Institute of India hugely because it's not just Covishield. The Serum Institute of India has 3 more COVID-19 vaccines in the pipeline, including a nasal vaccine. Well, on to the other big development we're tracking. Maharashtra has decided on a 5-level unlock strategy. The levels have been decided on the basis of positivity rate and oxygen beds occupancy. Mumbai is in level 2 for now. Local trains will not be running in Mumbai. Thane, on the other hand, is in level 1. So this, of course, is the big development that we're tracking. Maharashtra there deciding upon its unlock strategy. Remember, Maharashtra for long has been the worst hit COVID-19 state with cases and positivity rate declining. This is the unlock strategy that has been worked out by the Maharashtra government. However, the government has maintained that it will in fact revise this strategy, relook at these levels and the categorization of areas on the basis of these levels every week to take stock of the COVID-19 situation. Meanwhile, as Mumbai unlocks, it has run out of vaccines once again yesterday. The government and the civic body, all of their centers, which in fact administer the COVID-19 vaccine, ran out of stock. That meant that a total of 344 state and civic run vaccination centers did not operate yesterday. No age group in Mumbai was given the COVID vaccine.
No vaccination on June 3rd. Once again, this board displayed in Mumbai because vaccination drive stopped in BMC and state-run centers on Thursday. Due to the shortage of vaccine on Wednesday, only 51 centers out of 344 centers were functioning. Today, not one of these was open. In fact, of about 50,000 doses on Wednesday, only 1 in 10 were in government centers, the rest were in private centers. In the last 3 days, the number of beneficiaries in government centers has crashed from over 22,000 on the 31st of May to just 5,500 on the 2nd of June. In May, BMC received nearly 5.2 lakh doses, less than half of April's quantity of over 9.4 lakh doses.
Getting the vaccination supply, we are dependent on the Government of India and Government of Maharashtra. We could not continue with the vaccination schedule on Wednesday because of the short supply, but today we have received more than 90,000 doses of Covishield and Covaxin. So tomorrow onwards, our vaccination schedule will be as it is.
The municipality received 9 responses for its global tender for 1 crore doses and will scrutinize the bids to check for authenticity. Although right now the cases are going down in Mumbai, but in an anticipation of a third wave, it is necessary that we vaccinate as many people as possible, and that too quickly. But with such regular vaccine shortage in Mumbai, this is looking very difficult and also a bit concerning. In Mumbai with camera person Sanjay Mandal, this is Purva Chitnas for NDTV.
Now, while there is a shortage of COVID-19 vaccines that is being reported from metros and urban centers, rural centers have another problem of vaccine hesitancy. Large states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and even Madhya Pradesh are facing an enormous challenge of vaccine hesitancy. The reason, of course, is fake news, superstition. Here's what's happening in rural India.
वैक्सीनेशन वाले आए अम्मा कहाँ दुखी हो अम्मा ओ अम्मा इतने आओ अम्मा अम्मा विधायक जी आई आपके घर है
This viral video from Uttar Pradesh's Etawah district summing up India's worrying COVID vaccine hesitancy, especially in villages. The video was shot on Tuesday afternoon when the local BJP MLA and a health department team visited the village for an awareness drive. Hardevi, in her 80s, first hid behind a door, then behind a drum, refusing to get vaccinated. Finally, she was convinced to get the jab.
गांव क्षेत्र में बहुत ही मेहनत की ज़रूरत है और लोगों को जागरूक करने की ज़रूरत है, समझाने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि वैक्सीनेशन तो होना ही चाहिए और सबसे ज़्यादा गांव क्षेत्र में होना चाहिए.
Uttar Pradesh's vaccination pace is among the lowest among big states in the country. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, less than 2% of the total population are fully vaccinated. In terms of numbers, this is just 35 lakh people, hardly anything for a state with a population of 23 crores. The COVID vaccine drive hitting a roadblock in neighbouring Bihar too, despite the Nitish Kumar government stepping up vaccinations in rural areas. These videos from a village in the Saharsa district show Anganwadi and Asha workers struggling to convince people and facing excuses ranging from illness, impotency to death. Only about 1.4% of Bihar's population has been fully vaccinated so far. In Madhya Pradesh, not a rush for COVID vaccines, but for fairy water, as these crowds rushed into the Chatukheda village of MP's Rajgarh district after rumours that two women were distributing a miracle cure for COVID.
Superstitions like these need to be tackled swiftly and with a strong hand. With Alok Pandey and Manish Kumar in Bhopal, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Now, while several states like Maharashtra prepare to unlock or ease curbs, the Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa has announced an extension of the existing coronavirus lockdown in the state till 6 a.m. on the 14th of June.
Karnataka's lockdown has been extended for another week until the morning of June the 14th. This was expected, given that the COVID expert committee wants the state's positivity rate to fall below 5%. It was at 11.22% in data released on Wednesday evening.
Lockdown we are going to extend another 1 week because villages side the COVID situation is worst. That's why we are extending about 1 week this lockdown. According to me, after 1 week, I think everything will be all right. It will come down to 5%. We are going to give all the relief to everybody.
The Chief Minister also announced cash relief to different groups, including film and TV industry workers, the fishing community, Asha and Anganwadi workers, weavers, and people working in temples and masjids. This will benefit around 62 lakh people and cost 323 crores. The state still has around 3 lakh active COVID cases. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Wrapped in white cloth and marked only by numbered stickers, dozens of clay pots lay unclaimed at the Sumanahalli crematorium in the suburbs of Bengaluru, where the ashes of COVID victims have been piling up. The urns were then transported for a massive riverside immersion ritual with the rest of the uncollected ashes from Bengaluru on Wednesday. A total of 1,200 unaccounted virus victims.
560 persons' ashes will be immersed in the Kaveri today. The family of those who dead people for the various reasons could not collect the ashes. They are going through difficult time. Government is sharing the pain with them and trying to step in the part of their family. We are seeing in the Ganga river thousands of bodies who is dead in the COVID time. The birds are eating the meat. This is a shame to us. So we decided to respect farewell to all the bodies who lost their life in the COVID time.
Well, in Rajasthan, there have been over 500 children orphaned due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is just the official toll of children who've lost both parents to COVID-19. The state government is now working towards providing rehabilitation for these children, but in many cases, COVID doesn't feature as the cause of death, and therefore these children may not be able to access the government help that they really need.
Nupur and Nilima lost their parents to COVID. Both were nursing staff with government jobs. Their father Kartar Singh and mother Chandravati died within a week of each other in May this year. The girls now have no family to support them. Their grandmother, the only surviving relative, is dependent on them. The cruel irony is that the girls may not technically be counted as COVID orphans, as they are both in their early 20s. हमारी परवरिश के लिए अभी कोई भी नहीं है, हम दो बहनें ही हैं अब जो एक दूसरे का सपोर्ट करेंगे और एक दूसरे के साथ रहेंगे। हम दोनों ही अभी जॉबलेस हैं। मेरी सिस्टर की एजुकेशन अभी चल रही है, वो 2nd ईयर में है, तो गवर्नमेंट से यही है कि जल्दी से जल्दी प्रोसेस को वो हम स्टार्ट करें, हमारी हेल्प करें। हम दोनों ही जॉबलेस हैं, पेंशन प्लान्स हैं, हमें दें जॉब जो जिसको भी मिलनी चाहिए दोनों में से, या तो दोनों को दें या जो बड़ा है उसको दें ताकि सिस्टर की पढ़ाई भी स्टार्ट कर सकें। 15-year-old and her 9-year-old brother say relatives have run up a debt for the treatment of their mother who died of COVID in May this year. The children are now left alone. Their father died a few years ago and they have no means to support themselves, let alone repay the debt incurred for their mother's treatment.
उनकी फिर मौत हो गई। गांव वालों से कर्ज लेके भैया ने आगे का इलाज शुरू किया और हम दोनों भाई बहन की जिम्मेदारी भी भैया पे आ गई। कैसे भी करके भैया घर चला रहे हैं हमारा। मैं पढ़ना चाहती हूँ।
This tragic dimension to the pandemic has left hundreds of children orphaned. According to the Rajasthan government, the figure in the state is 500 and the tally is still increasing.
500 के करीब आंकड़ा हमारे पास आया है और अभी और भी आंकड़े आने बाकी हैं। अभी हमारा सबसे पहला फोकस है कोरोना में जो बच्चों के माता पिता चले गए हैं, चाहे वो कई ऐसे भी मामले आ रहे हैं जिनके पिता फर्स्ट वेव में चले गए और माता सेकंड वेव में चली गई, उनको भी हम इस कैटेगरी में रख रहे हैं। और अभी हमारा सबसे बड़ा अध्याय यही है, पिछले 1 साल का वो पूरा आंकड़ा आप हमको भिजवाए जो बच्चे अनाथ हुए हैं, चाहे वो किसी भी तरह हुए हों, तो उसका भी एक अलग से हमारा सर्वे चल रहा है।
But for children to navigate the red tape and access real help may be more than they can handle.
लंबी प्रक्रिया नहीं होनी चाहिए जो मेरी आपके साथ। हमने किड्स केयर वेलफेयर फंड क्यों बनाया कि वो बच्चे घूमते नहीं रहे, मेरे मदर फादर नहीं है, मैं फॉर्म कैसे भरूं। आजकल एक नया बुखार चढ़ गया, ऑनलाइन कीजिए। अरे ऑनलाइन मैं पढ़ा लिखा आदमी मैं नहीं कर सकता, ऑनलाइन करना हर व्यक्ति को नहीं आता। मैं आजकल रोज अफसर से लड़ता हूं। मैंने कहा पहले गलत बात, ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन दोनों रखो। वो ढूंढते मुझे फॉर्म कहां भरना है। फॉर्म भरने के लिए बच्चों को लाइन में मत लगाइए, मदद करने दीजिए घर पे जाकर।
And as the government plans rehabilitation for these children, real help will be what reaches their doorstep. With Sandeep Tak in Ajmer and Harish Acharya in Bundi, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Now remember, both the CBSE as well as the ICSE have cancelled the Class 12 board exams in the next 2 weeks. There will be clarity on what the criteria for assessment is going to be. However, as far as state governments are concerned, they're allowed to take their own decision with respect to the board exams. Here's a reaction that's coming in from students in Karnataka while they wait to hear on whether the exams will take place or not.
After the central government announced the cancellation of board exams this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many state governments went ahead and cancelled their state board exams as well. But here in Karnataka, students are still waiting to see what their government decides. We bring you the voices of some young students as they wait for the uncertainty to end.
This year has been really hectic for me because I was not able to attend any offline classes, and online classes are not as effective as offline classes. And I would request the government to please make a wise decision about cancelling the board exams, because as it's been postponed for a very long time, we are not able to focus on our competitive exams like JEE and KCET. And even if we go to write our offline board exam, this is a very great risk because we'll be exposed to many people and the virus can easily spread among us.
I hereby request government to cancel the PU exams, as Karnataka is one of the most affected states in the country, and it would be unsafe for students to write exams. Many other states, even after having lesser cases compared to Karnataka, have already cancelled their exams. It would be really difficult for everyone to travel to the centers for writing the exams if conducted offline. Also, the chance of the spread of virus would be higher.
ಹಲೋ ಆಲ್, ಇವಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಥರ CBSE ICSE 12th ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಬೋರ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದರಲ್ಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಮಗೂ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಂಗೆ ಅವರು ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ 15th ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರು ಬೇಗ ಕಾಲೇಜಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೀಗ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನೇಷನು ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. 10th ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಇನ್ನೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ 10th ಅವರು ಅದೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಆಗೋದು ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ. ಸೊ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ರೇಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಕೈಂಡ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್.
With that, we're stepping into a short break. We'll bring you more news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Around 3,000 junior doctors from 6 medical colleges in Madhya Pradesh have gone on a strike. Now, this strike comes after the Madhya Pradesh High Court termed their strike illegal. Junior doctors of the state government-run medical colleges have several demands, including free treatment for them and their families if they contract the coronavirus infection, a demand that clearly hasn't been met. Now, the Maharashtra government has decided on a 5-level unlock strategy. The levels of unlock will be based on the positivity rate in the area and the number of oxygen beds that are occupied. Mumbai currently has been placed in level 2 category of unlock. Local trains won't run for now. Thane, on the other hand, has been put in level 1 category. What we're also understanding is that the Maharashtra government has decided that it will review these levels and the areas every week in order to keep a check on the COVID-19 situation. Saurabh Shukla, my colleague Saurabh Gupta, I beg your pardon, joins us with the very latest. Saurabh, what more can you tell us about the Maharashtra government unlock strategy?
Well, there is an unlock strategy under consideration, but nothing has been decided so far. That's something that, the government is very clear on. They are saying that they will take some time to consider the proposals. What they are saying is that, state restrictions have not been lifted, but, some relaxations have been given in, and the disaster management department is deciding on 5 stages of the unlocking. The weekly positivity rate and the availability of oxygen beds will be a key factor in this decision. Now, they're saying that detailed guidelines for tightening or relaxing of restrictions will be based on these criteria and will be notified by the government. It hasn't been notified yet.
All right, Saurabh, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. So these are this is the strategy that the government is considering, but like Saurabh said, nothing has been made official just yet. No clarity on when this unlock strategy will in fact come into place. We'll keep a close watch though on all those stories. Appreciate you, Saurabh, for joining us with the very latest. Moving on, the Supreme Court came down heavily on the Indian government over the issue of vaccine policy. They have some very specific questions on pricing as well, mostly saying that why not have a one nation, one price for COVID-19 vaccines, reflecting perhaps the sentiment of many Indians at the moment, wondering why there is no MRP on the life-saving COVID-19 vaccine. Moni Deepa with this full story.
At vaccination centres at Kolkata's private hospitals, a debate over the cost of the shot. Some are charging as much as $12.50 for Covishield, which costs 630 rupees. For Covaxin, cost price 1200 rupees, a customer has filed a police complaint against a hospital that advertised shots at 2000 rupees a piece.
Right? Everybody is supposed to pay what is equal, and it should be regulated. Like, it should be same for all. There shouldn't be this difference, like somebody is paying high and somebody is paying low.
They are saying they are charging 1,000 rupees, somewhere they are charging 1,250 rupees, here they are charging 630 rupees. So that has to be one vaccine charges for everyone.
A Lions Club initiative to vaccinate members earned brickbats from some.
As a commodity as simple as water, that this bottle costs you 20 rupees, this is the MRP. But when it comes to a life-saving vaccine in this time of a pandemic, I'm not sure what is the right price. Even our members are saying you are charging 950. There are instances where other hospitals are charging 850. Then there are instances where other hospitals are charging 1400. So this looks like that people are taking advantage of the situation.
The Association of the top 19 Kolkata hospitals is worried the variation in prices could give them a bad name.
Yes, it has come to our notice also that some of the hospitals are charging very high. But I would request, I can pray to this one, that is They should not charge more. No one should consider this vaccination program as their business model.
There are exceptions. Covishield at this Narayana Group hospital is at procurement price 630 per shot. Private hospitals do need to recover the cost of their inputs in the vaccination drive. But a free market in vaccine delivery ill-advised. With Saurav Gupta, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
All right, now Alapan Bandyopadhyay, the Bengal bureaucrat at the heart of the latest clash between Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has reportedly replied to the centre's notice accusing him of skipping the Prime Minister's meeting last week. Monideepa with the details.
At the moment, the short of it is that Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, who is now a retired IAS officer and a chief advisor to the Chief Minister of Bengal, he has responded to the show cause that was served to him on Monday, 31st of May, his last day at work. The show cause from the Department of Personnel at the centre was primarily because he allegedly did not attend the Prime Minister's meeting at Kalaikunda on the 28th of May. Mr. Bandyopadhyay is believed to have written back. We don't have exact verbatim details of his letter, but we believe he has said that he was at the meeting with the Chief Minister and that he left the meeting when the Chief Minister did. The Chief Minister was his boss at that time and he followed her instructions. This, in a sense, is what he has apparently written to the centre. In the meantime, not just Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, we are hearing that even the Chief Secretary, on behalf of the West Bengal government, has written to the centre on the issue, again explaining the exact circumstances of Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay's and the Chief Minister's presence and departure from the meeting with the Prime Minister. What happens next? Big question. Depends on what the centre wants to do. The whole matter could, of course, escalate to court. The Chief Minister yesterday very significantly said the Alapan Bandyopadhyay chapter is a closed chapter, but in future we will back him in the entire matter. So if the matter goes to court, the state will back him. We'll have to wait and see now how the centre responds to this. A huge number of former civil servants have said that the action by the centre against Mr. Bandyopadhyay was, some have called it malified and completely unnecessary. But of course, the centre has its point of view, and if it wishes to pursue the matter in court, perhaps that is where the matter will roll.
Well, the Punjab Chief Minister, Captain Amrinder Singh, will today be meeting the three-member Congress panel that is looking into the factionalism in the Congress state unit. The panel has earlier, in fact, met, and Navjot Singh Sidhu is also speaking with several MLAs. Now, sedition, the use and mostly misuse of this word came up several times in the Supreme Court this week. The week started with the Supreme Court saying that it is time we define what sedition is. Yesterday, the highest court in the country cancelled a sedition case against journalist Vinod Dua and said that a 1962 order protects every journalist from such charges. Vinod Dua was charged with sedition in Himachal Pradesh over his criticism of the central government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was on the basis of a complaint that was filed against a journalist by a BJP leader in the state.
अपने आत्मसम्मान को कायम रखते हुए अपने हित और अपनी बातें सख्ती से सामने रखना जरूरी है.
Big relief for journalist Vinod Dua. The top court today cancelled a sedition case against him filed by the Himachal Pradesh police. The case was after a complaint by a BJP leader for Dua questioning the Prime Minister and Centre's handling of the pandemic on his show on March 30th, 2020. However, the dropping of sedition charges against others like Kerala journalist Siddique Kappan, who's in Mathura jail, is unlikely to happen until their courts take up today's Supreme Court order. The top court said every journalist will be entitled to protection under Kedar Nath Singh judgment in 1962 on sedition. Then a 5-judge constitution bench allowed the sedition law but narrowed down the scope and said, strong comments critical of government without inciting public disorder is not sedition. A citizen has a right to criticize government or its actions so long as he does not incite people to violence against government.
This judgment will have a huge impact on the pending cases also. There has been a lot of demand for repealing sedition law. Now, sedition law as it stood in the statute book was definitely required to be repealed. And accordingly, now no police officer will be permitted to continue with a sedition case.
In another significant part of the order, the court had agreed to revisit the 1962 verdict and sought the centre's response based on the 2 journalists' plea who moved to Supreme Court. Kishore Chandra Wankhemcha from Manipur, who is in jail now. The other is Kanhaiya Lal Shukla from Chhattisgarh. Both were booked for comments against the government on social media.
While staying any action against 2 Telugu news channels, the court said it's time. Court defines sedition. Again today, the court observed journalists are entitled to protection under the 1962 verdict on sedition. A clear message to all governments: don't book journalists under sedition law. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
Welcome back. Wockhardt has made a deal for an undisclosed vaccine. The chairman has spoken exclusively to NDTV. He says expect an official announcement in the next 2 weeks.
Dr. Habil Khurakiwala, he's the founder chairperson of Wockhardt. Thanks very much for being with us. The question is this: if the government of India is seriously considering an indemnity to Pfizer and Moderna now, what stopped them from actually considering this seriously a few months back? Because we are fighting against time to vaccinate as many people as possible.
I cannot comment why government did not consider earlier, because we have never given, India has never given indemnity for vaccine all these years. But it is a practice in the United States and other Western countries for all vaccines to give indemnity, waiver, because government takes a responsibility if there is side effects of vaccine. And this situation had come about 2 decades earlier, when vaccine research has gone down because of the indemnity problem. And then government take upon themselves to take that responsibility. And this is only exception for vaccine. This is not applicable to any other pharmaceutical product.
So, as I understand it, if this is given, who bears the responsibility in case something goes wrong? If there's an adverse reaction, will it, the company is protected, so therefore does the government pay out somebody if they go to court?
There is a system in the US, I'm not aware of other countries, that the vaccine manufacturers pay some amount as an insurance to government for every unit of vaccine they sell. And the US government has created a fund. And from this fund, if there is any liability, government will pay to individuals or the group of people. There is also a ceiling how much government will pay per vaccine. So I think there is a law there to both protect the manufacturers as well as the consumer.
There has to be one law. If there is indemnity given to some companies, then indemnity needs to be given to others as well, at least across vaccines. So therefore, if you've got a Serum Institute, the sources there indicating that, look, we are trying to bring in vaccines as well, but we need the same standards. Is that not a fair request?
I think it is a very fair request.
Now let's talk a little bit about Wockhardt itself and the fight against COVID. I believe you can really ramp up your production in order to manufacture vaccines here in India. Are you in talks with any of the vaccine makers at this stage to step up the numbers we need in India?
We are discussing with one company to manufacture 500 million doses of vaccine capacity per year. And we have already signed the technology transfer agreement. But we are in the process of signing the final agreement. And I think we will announce it as soon as it is done in the next few weeks.
Which company are you talking with, sir?
Because of confidentiality, I cannot mention the name of the company.
Is it one of the companies looking to enter India?
It is the company which is either approved, their products are approved or in the process of getting it.
All right. What about some of the existing vaccines? For example, Bharat Biotech needs to step up manufacturing of Covaxin. Is that also something that you are looking at?
We are not looking at that Bharat Biotech vaccine because it requires a special kind, pre-manufacturing facilities. And because in our biotechnology complex, that will disturb our other biologicals, and therefore we've decided not to have that.
Right.
But after that specific vaccine, we have the capacity to manufacture any other vaccine which is being marketed or developed worldwide. And we can deal with number of technologies like mRNA or protein-based or vector-based technology programs.
So the vaccine which you hope to announce in the next 2 weeks or so, you believe that that would be an mRNA-based vaccine?
I cannot say at this point in time what would be the basis of that technology of the vaccine, but it will be one of the three.
All right. As you can appreciate, sir, it's my job to press you for an answer on this. But I understand that you know there are confidentiality clauses. But let me rephrase that by asking 500 million doses you said. So in other words, Wockhardt in a finite period of time, if everything goes according to plan, will be adding to vaccine availability in our country by 500 million doses in how many months, sir?
This is annual capacity, and we will be starting production sometime in October. But actually it will take us another couple of weeks to ramp up to full production.
So by December, would this vaccine, whichever vaccine it is, be out in the market?
Yes, we see our arrangement is as a contract manufacturer arrangement with the principal innovator. So we would be supplying it to them, and then they would be, it is up to them to introduce a product in India or other countries.
And what about prices? Would this be competitively priced?
We have only a price agreement between us and them.
Right.
What price they will put is up to them actually.
All right. Well, sir, this is very good news, and I hope in 2 weeks from now the news will be even better when you actually tell us, what is coming into India. We need vaccines so desperately to get to that approximately 2 billion dose mark by the end of the year. No one really knows how that's going to happen. In fact, that's my final question to you, sir. Realistically, no matter how hard somebody like you or Wockhardt tries, do you think we will get to that 2 billion dose mark which the government hopes to get to by the end of the year? How is that even going to happen?
I cannot comment on the government, but from the government obviously is in a close touch with the various manufacturers here. And they said they would be able to vaccinate about 1 crore people a month from July onwards. But even if there is some minor slippages, it will not be too much delayed, maybe a month, 2 months or so. And I think considering the size of population and the enormous task both government, vaccine manufacturer and delivery mechanism is having,
right,
to deal, I think it is a great achievement to do it in this limited period of time.
All right, Dr. Habil Khorakiwala, founder, chairperson of the Wockhardt Group. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. Exciting times for new vaccines to be coming into the market. Hopefully, we'll have that big announcement from you very soon indeed. Thanks, sir. Thanks very much.
Pleasure talking to you.
Well, let's get to the other big story we're checking. Bharat Biotech team is going to be visiting the integrated vaccine complex at Chengalpattu today. The high-capacity facility of the union government is lying unutilized. MK Stalin met with the Bharat Biotech team yesterday, and government sources say Stalin has assured all assistance. But Bharat Biotech is yet to decide on vaccine production at this particular Tamil Nadu facility after this visit. Sam, it's a crucial visit. You've been tracking the details of this story very closely. Is Bharat Biotech likely to begin manufacturing in Tamil Nadu?
Well, Rashika, that's the big question. All would depend on what kind of assessment the Bharat Biotech team, led by its joint managing director Suchitra Ella and the executive director Sai Prasad, would make after visiting or after inspecting this facility outside Chennai. For years, this facility was not put to use by the union government, and soon after taking over, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin urged the centre either to hand it over on lease to the Tamil Nadu government so they could find a partner or expedite the process of finding a partner. So if the Bharat Biotech team finds the infrastructure suitable and ready to commence production, then probably we could have some hope of the facility being put to use and the country as a whole getting more doses of vaccine from here. It could also help Tamil Nadu get a share of that. That's the larger aim. So we expect the Bharat Biotech team to decide to take a call on whether they can use this for production in a day or two after this visit. And a senior source from the Tamil Nadu government has also confirmed that Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, who met the team, has assured them to grant most favoured investor status and offer all assistance required if they decide to commence production here. Politically speaking, this could also mean, if it works out positively, a kind of a shot in the arm for M.K. Stalin, because it was his efforts that set the ball rolling. Although the Bharat Biotech team visits on the request of the central government, the whole process was set in motion by M.K. Stalin, and if it works out, it could be seen as a shot in the arm for his efforts. The larger question, of course, if it's put to good use, the whole country would get more number of doses, particularly at a time when we face shortage, and the country has got a sorry figure internationally on this count as well.
All right, we'll keep a close watch on all those developments. Will there be an expansion plan which will include manufacturing in Tamil Nadu or not? We'll have more clarity once that visit is in fact taking place. Thanks, Sam, for joining us with the latest. Now, while several states like Maharashtra are planning to ease curbs, Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa has announced an extension of the coronavirus lockdown till 6 a.m. on the 14th of June. Here's a report.
Karnataka's lockdown has been extended for another week, until the morning of June the 14th. This was expected, given that the COVID expert committee wants the state's positivity rate to fall below 5%. It was at 11.22% in data released on Wednesday evening.
Lockdown we are going to extend another 1 week because villages side the COVID situation is worst. That's why we are extending about 1 week this lockdown. According to me, after 1 week, I think everything will be all right. It will come down to 5%. We are going to give all the relief to everybody.
The Chief Minister also announced cash relief to different groups, including film and TV industry workers, the fishing community, Asha and Anganwadi workers, weavers, and people working in temples and masjids. This will benefit around 62 lakh people and cost 323 crores. The state still has around 3 lakh active COVID cases. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Welcome back to our special campaign, Vaccinate India, in partnership with Google. We're discussing questions that you may have about the COVID-19 vaccines. We all Google these questions, whether it's about the pandemic or the vaccine. So we have an expert to answer some of those questions for you. Dr. Arvind Kumar, Chairman of the Institute of Chest Surgery, joins us from the Medanta Hospital. Thanks so much for being with us. One of the most frequently asked questions is whether we have a choice as far as the COVID-19 vaccine is concerned. Can one choose which vaccine to get?
Rishika, the bigger question today is to get the vaccine as soon as possible. I don't think at present there is any need for us to be choosing between A or B or C. The first requirement across the country today is for as many people to get vaccinated as soon as possible, because it has been shown that both the vaccines available in the country, Covaxin and Covishield, are effective. They are absolutely safe, and they have not only prevented infections but also prevented ICU admissions and deaths in a large number of cases. Of course, there have been some exceptions, but that does not mean that the vaccine is not effective. So it's effective and safe. We must take it as soon as possible.
Right. But can people exercise a choice or is the choice only available to those who pay for the vaccine?
No, as far as I'm concerned, as a medical person, I would say when I went for vaccination, I didn't even ask whether it is Covaxin or Covishield.
Right.
I had equal faith in both. After I had been given the jab, I asked the nurse, okay, which vaccine have you given? Whatever she said, I was happy with that.
All right. So, what you're essentially saying is that you must just go out and get yourself vaccinated. It doesn't matter which vaccine it is at this point, because they'll both prevent at least a severe infection of COVID-19. That's very reassuring.
And they will prevent deaths in large number of cases, because that is the most feared complication of COVID. And it has been proved that you may get mild infection, but you are very, very unlikely, I won't say 0%, very, very unlikely to get severe disease or death.
Right. But if you walk into a vaccination center and are you given the option of which vaccine you're going to get? Do you have that information beforehand? How does it work logistically?
So it depends. Some places may be having both, but the most of the places that I'm associated with would get the supply of one vaccine. At least that's the condition today. When I went for vaccination, my family went for vaccination. We went there was one vaccine available, but I didn't choose the center according to vaccine. It doesn't matter which vaccine. Just go for the vaccine. Which one? Immaterial today.
All right. Very important advice that you're giving there. But, the other question that a lot of our viewers have is about the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. What should you be prepared in terms of the most common side effects when you do go out to get yourself vaccinated?
So, Rishika, there are two types of side effects. One, which are common, and these include pain at the vaccination site, some feeling of malaise, which means you're not feeling well, fever, maybe some chills, little rigors, and nausea, vomiting kind of a feeling. These typically start few hours after the vaccination and typically last about 48 hours, and they respond very well to rest and tablet paracetamol taken regularly 6-hourly. Most of the people are okay in 48 hours. Now, very, very, very rarely, maybe 0.00001%, there have been some uncommon side effects, which I don't want to mention here for the simple reason that those are extremely rare. People are still researching whether it is a cause and effect relationship. And today's perspective, where the desire, need of the hour is to get vaccinated, the message is loud and clear. These vaccines are safe. Go out and get vaccinated as soon as possible.
All right. So, go out and get vaccinated. Both vaccines are equally safe. That's the advice that's coming in from the doctor. Also, interestingly, what you're clarifying, and I think that's very important, is that most people have very mild reaction to the vaccine, and just a simple paracetamol should give you relief, if not in 24, then at least in 48 hours.
48 hours.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Arvind Kumar, for joining us on the broadcast with those clarifications. Well, on to the big story. We're tracking from Madhya Pradesh, where around 3,000 junior doctors from 6 medical colleges in Madhya Pradesh have gone on a strike. This after the High Court termed their strike illegal. Now, what is it that junior doctors are demanding? Why are they on strike? Junior doctors of the state government medical-run colleges have said that there are several demands, including free treatment for them and their families if they get COVID-19, a demand that's clearly not been met. All right, well, breaking news that is coming in. The latest COVID numbers are out. India has reported 1.32 lakh cases in the last 24 hours. Deaths continue to be below the 3,000 mark, 2,713 deaths being reported in the last 24 hours. Vaccinations in the last 24 hours have crossed 28 lakh, 28.75 lakh vaccines have been administered in this time period. The number of tests conducted is also 20.75 lakhs. The positivity rate in India currently is at 6.3%. It is for the 11th consecutive day when India has reported a positivity rate of below 10%. So this, of course, is the big breaking story we're tracking. India's COVID cases have fallen by almost 1,700, almost 1,800 actually in the last 24 hours, down to 1.32 lakh new cases, 2,713 deaths. That's also down by 170 as compared to the last 24 hours. The good news, of course, is that for the 11th consecutive day, the positivity rate continues to be below 10% at 6.3 currently. In Rajasthan alone, there have been over 500 children orphaned due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The state government is working towards providing a rehabilitation package for these children. But in many cases, COVID doesn't feature in the cause of death, and therefore it's going to be difficult for these children to access the government help they need.
Nupur and Nilima lost their parents to COVID. Both were nursing staff with government jobs. Their father Kartar Singh and mother Chandravati died within a week of each other in May this year. The girls now have no family to support them. Their grandmother, the only surviving relative, is dependent on them. The cruel irony is that the girls may not technically be counted as COVID orphans as they are both in their early 20s.
हमारी परवरिश के लिए अभी कोई भी नहीं है, हम दो बहनें ही हैं अब जो एक दूसरे का सपोर्ट करेंगे और एक दूसरे के साथ रहेंगे। हम दोनों ही अभी जॉबलेस हैं। मेरी सिस्टर की एजुकेशन अभी चल रही है, वो 2nd ईयर में है, तो गवर्नमेंट से यही है कि जल्दी से जल्दी प्रोसेस को वो हम स्टार्ट करें, हमारी हेल्प करें। हम दोनों ही जॉबलेस हैं, पेंशन प्लान्स हैं, हमें दें जॉब जो जिसको भी मिलनी चाहिए दोनों में से, या तो दोनों को दें या जो बड़ा है उसको दें ताकि सिस्टर की पढ़ाई भी स्टार्ट कर सकें।
15-year-old and her 9-year-old brother say relatives have run up a debt for the treatment of their mother who died of COVID in May this year. The children are now left alone. Their father died a few years ago and they have no means to support themselves, let alone repay the debt incurred for their mother's treatment.
उनकी फिर मौत हो गई। गांव वालों से कर्ज लेके भैया ने आगे का इलाज शुरू किया और हम दोनों भाई बहन की जिम्मेदारी भी भैया पे आ गई। कैसे भी करके भैया घर चला रहे हैं हमारा। मैं पढ़ना चाहती हूँ।
This tragic dimension to the pandemic has left hundreds of children orphaned. According to the Rajasthan government, the figure in the state is 500 and the tally is still increasing.
500 के करीब आंकड़ा हमारे पास आया है और अभी और भी आंकड़े आने बाकी हैं। अभी हमारा सबसे पहला फोकस है कोरोना में जो बच्चों के माता पिता चले गए हैं, चाहे वो कई ऐसे भी मामले आ रहे हैं जिनके पिता फर्स्ट वेव में चले गए और माता 2nd वेव में चली गई, उनको भी हम इस कैटेगरी में रख रहे हैं। और अभी हमारा सबसे बड़ा ध्येय यही है पिछले 1 साल का वो पूरा आंकड़ा आप हमको भिजवाए जो बच्चे अनाथ हुए, चाहे वो किसी भी तरह हुए हों, तो उसका भी एक अलग से हमारा सर्वे चल रहा है।
But for children to navigate the red tape and access real help may be more than they can handle.
लंबी प्रक्रिया नहीं होनी चाहिए जो मेरी आपके साथ। हमने किड्स केयर वेलफेयर फंड क्यों बनाया कि वो बच्चे घूमते नहीं रहे, मेरे मदर फादर नहीं है, मैं फॉर्म कैसे भरूं। आजकल एक नया बुखार चढ़ गया, ऑनलाइन कीजिए। अरे ऑनलाइन मैं पढ़ा लिखा आदमी मैं नहीं कर सकता, ऑनलाइन करना हर व्यक्ति को नहीं आता। मैं आजकल रोज अफसर से लड़ता हूं। मैंने कहा पहले गलत बात, ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन दोनों रखो। वो ढूंढते मुझे फॉर्म कहां भरना है। फॉर्म भरने के लिए बच्चों को लाइन में मत लगाइए, मदद करनी दीजिए घर पे जाकर।
And as the government plans rehabilitation for these children, real help will be what reaches their doorstep. With Sandeep Tak in Ajmer and Harish Acharya in Bundi, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
The Kerala government has announced a COVID package of 20,000 crore rupees. Of these, 2,200 crores for health and money directly for those who've lost their livelihood. 8,900 crores in financial resurgence, and subsidies for loans amount to 8,300 crores. Sneha joins us with the very latest. Sneha, what are the highlights of the budget?
Well, this is the first budget of the Pinarayi Vijayan government 2.0, and it's not just us saying it that way. In fact, the finance minister, the new finance minister K.N. Balagopal, while giving out his budget speech, also mentioned Pinarayi Vijayan government couple of times. So the focus also being on Pinarayi Vijayan, a huge political statement at the beginning of the budget speech itself, literally a political takedown of the political opposition, saying that Kerala has not allowed a culture where MLAs are bought or positioned in tourist places, referring to certain developments that have been seen in other states politically, also talking about how the left's role in ensuring that fascist forces not entering Kerala has been significant, also mentioning that the re-election of the left government has not been by curtailing opposition's voice or media's space or media's voice. So that, of course, being the political statement from the finance minister. But there's also a slew of measures. One, of course, as you mentioned, is the COVID package of 20,000 crores, also which gives out allocations in terms for direct benefits that would reach those who have lost their livelihood, focus on health, as well as subsidies for loans to ensure financial resurgence. But apart from this, also this budget focusing a lot on health measures, capacity building, medical capacity building in hospitals, including pediatric ICU wards that would be set up, according to the finance minister, across districts, keeping in mind the third wave and about how there have been reports that children might be hit the worst or a lot more in the third wave. So that being one of the focus. Apart from that, about how isolation wards would be set up in each in hospitals across districts. He's also spoken about, and this is of also importance because that's one thing that the country has faced, shortage of oxygen supply for treatment for critical COVID patients. He's spoken about 150 metric tons liquid oxygen medical plant being set up with 1,000 metric tons capacity tank, as well as tankers that would be available for emergency transport. So a lot of focus on health as well.
All right, Sneha, appreciate you for joining us for the very latest. We'll keep a close watch on those developments. The Kerala budget is out and there's a lot of focus on enhancing the healthcare infrastructure as well as relief to those who've lost their livelihoods. Now on to the other big story. We're tracking a gas leakage from a chemical factory in Badlapur was reported on Thursday night, creating panic in the area. No casualties were reported, but people reported breathing issues and nausea in the 3-kilometer radius of the factory. The big political story, Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh is to meet a 3-member Congress panel that is looking into factionalism in the state unit. Sunil Prabhu is tracking the details of this story. He joins us with the very latest. Sunil, important meeting ahead.
That's right. At 11 o'clock, he'll be meeting this Congress panel. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into account. The fact that, in a sense, is a way of the Congress trying to rein in the Captain Amrinder Singh. Yesterday, strength, of course, with the clearance of the High Command, he took in 3 Aam Aadmi Party MLAs, sitting MLAs, to join his party. And it's in that context now that he'll be meeting these leaders to understand from them and explain to them his version of why he has ostracized himself, what is the reasons behind why he's allowing the bureaucracy to take an upper hand. Why is it only 2 or 3 people who are in his control who actually run the affairs of the country, of the state? Apart from the fact that the bureaucracy seems to be taking into an upper hand. For example, Vinny Mahajan, the Chief Secretary of Punjab, tweeting about going to private hospitals has been a great cause of concern. It's that aspect, as well as, of course, the fact that the Congress seems to be hand in glove with the Akalis and the Badals, is something that has really upset many Congress MLAs, and it's in that backdrop that this meeting takes place. How does Captain Amrinder, who's a tall leader, and I think there is really nobody to replace him in Punjab at present, even though Mr. Sidhu and others have voiced their grievances and dissidents against what is happening in Punjab. The fact is that he will need to pull up his socks. How they do it, whether they'll be able to do it at all, or the Congress is reign to once again self-destruct, is a matter of concern which we'll have to wait and watch and see the outcome of this panel. Right. But the longer the panel takes, the further damage it does for the Congress party in Punjab.
All right, we'll keep a close watch on the developments of that meeting. Appreciate you, Sunil, for joining us with the very latest. Short break here on the broadcast. We'll bring you all the latest from the markets on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get you an update on what's happening with the markets this morning. As far as the Sensex is concerned, it's opened in the green, up 55 points, trading at 52,288 as of 9:54 this morning. Let's get you the top gainers on the Sensex. Indiabulls Housing, Adani Ports and SEZ, Coal India all continue to be in the green. Indiabulls Housing up 6.25 points, trading at 235. Adani Ports SEZ almost a 1.1 percentage point up, trading at 834. Coal India trading above 150. Let's take a look at the top losers on the Sensex. Hindalco, Vedanta and Eicher Motors. Hindalco down almost 4.5%, trading at 394.65. Vedanta trading at 274.85, down almost a percentage point. And Eicher Motors also down almost a percentage point, but trading above the 2,700 mark. BSE top gainers, Punjab Communications Limited, Prime Pro and AP Labs is trading all in the green at the moment. Punjab Communications is up almost 20%, trading at 35.55. Okay, BSE top losers now. Trans FD is trading in the red, almost 18 points down, trading at 163. NPR Finance is trading, in fact, at 12.56, down almost 8.5%. Cupid trading also down by 6%, but above the 230 mark at the moment. Let's take a look at BankX top gainers this morning. IDBI Bank, IndusInd Bank and Axis Bank all in the green. IDBI above 39.65, gaining 2% points this morning. IndusInd Bank trading above 1,000, almost a percentage point up. Axis Bank trading at 755. Almost up by 0.6%. Top losers, HDFC, Federal Bank and SBI. HDFC is down 5.70, trading at 14.50. Federal Bank trading at 87, down almost 0.3 percentage points. SBI trading at 438, down by 0.19%. So that's the Sensex as of now, up 50 points, trading above 52,200. We'll continue to keep a close watch on the markets. Short break here. We'll be back with more news on the other side. Stay with us.